Hello, 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 critical thinkers. We are live. I am Fred. Thank you for coming on the live stream with me. You know it's early. It's 6 a.m. Hopefully, everyone has their coffee with them. This morning, I'm going over another another case of a beating of an incarcerated individual. This one occurring at Mid-State Correctional Facility across the street from Marcy Correctional Facility. Unfortunately, these these deaths are going to continue to happen. So, what I want to do, this story is pretty fresh. So I'm going to go over two articles with you. The first is from the New York Times, and the second is from the Freelance. So here's the article from the New York Times. New York State police investigate death of another inmate at Upstate prison. 11 correction workers were placed on leave after a 22-year-old inmate at Mid-State Correctional Facility at a I'm sorry. 11 correction workers were placed on leave after a 22-year-old inmate at Mid-State Correctional Facility died. Inmate said he was viciously beaten by prison guards. This article is by Jan Ransom. The state police are investigating the death of a prisoner over the weekend in a facility near the central New York prison where another inmate was fatally beaten by guards in December. And the article is referring to Robert Brooks. Prison officials said on Saturday that an inmate at Mid-State Correctional Facility, a medium security prison in Marcy, New York, near Utica, was pronounced dead at a nearby hospital earlier in the day. Officials released no additional details about the circumstances surrounding his death, but some 9 prisoners interviewed by the New York Times on Sunday, 7 of whom agreed to have their names used, said the inmate had been brutally beaten by correction officers. So, just to pause for a quick second and set up the sources, the New York Times interviewed, I believe they said, 9 incarcerated individuals, and this was the story that they got. Their accounts could not be independently confirmed, and Thomas Maley, a prison spokesperson, said the death was under investigation. 11 correction staff members involved in the incident were placed on administrative leave while the investigation proceeds, Mr. Maley said. A spokesperson for the New York Attorney General, Letitia James, said her office was conducting a preliminary assessment of the death. Deaths that appear to be from other than natural causes or a known medical condition are investigated by the Office of the Attorney General, the New York State Police, and the State Corrections Department. Office of Special Investigations, Mr. Maley said. So, what is very possible is that similar to Robert Brooks, where the Office of the Attorney General, Letitia James, had recused herself because some of those officers were in civil suits, which her office was representing. Ultimately, Letitia James and the Office of Attorney General took themselves out of those cases. We will see if any of these 11 staff members of DOCS have a history of beatings, and let's see what comes out later on. A spokesperson for Governor Kathy Hochul did not respond to requests for comment on Sunday, and a spokesperson for the Correction Officers Union said he had no information about the death. Officials did not release the inmate's name, but his father confirmed on Monday that the man who died was Messiah Nantwi, 22. Mr. Nantwi had entered custody in May and was serving a 5-year sentence for second-degree criminal possession of a weapon, according to official records. His death followed that of another prisoner, 43-year-old Robert Brooks, who died on December 9th at Marcy Correctional Facility across the street from Mid-State. 10 officers have been criminally charged in Mr. Brooks' death, 6 of them with murder, after they were captured on body-worn cameras beating and choking him in the infirmary. We have a quick comment from Donna Torres. Donna says, "Where are the cameras? This has to stop." I agree with you. So ultimately, if body cameras were activated, we will hopefully see what the body cameras have, and they'll be shared with the general public. The latest fatality comes the latest fatality comes amid a mounting crisis in the New York State prison system, where wildcat strikes by thousands of correctional officers are expected to enter a third week. It is also the fifth death in the prison system since the strikes began. At least one of the deaths was a suicide. By the way, there's a very interesting press conference that Daniel Monticello did yesterday, along with, believe it was the New York State Office of Emergency something. But I am going to be doing a video on that press conference that he did yesterday, discussing the correctional officer strike. So let's go back to the article. Correction officers at nearly all of the state's 42 prisons, including Mid-State, have been on strike since September 17th without the backing of their union and in defiance of a judge's order to protest what they are dangerous working conditions, severe staffing shortages, and forced overtime. The state corrections commissioner Daniel F. Marchicello III announced on X that he was giving the officers until Monday to return to work. Some prisoners' rights advocates have accused officers of engaging in the strikes to distract attention from the beating death of Mr. Brooks. I most certainly believe that. The strike seems to be a big distraction during the same time that officers were being indicted uh, for the beating death of Robert Brooks. Ms. Hochul ordered thousands of National Guard soldiers deployed to replace the prison officers. The death at Mid-State occurred on Saturday morning as members of the National Guard were preparing to conduct a security check in a housing area to make sure all the prisoners were accounted for, said the 9 prisoners interviewed by the New York Times, who described the death in unusually graphic detail. Inmates, many of whom fear retaliation by prison guards, are often reluctant to speak about allegations of brutality behind bars. That's most certainly a fact. Uh, numerous stories of incarcerated individuals not reporting abuses, or reporting abuses and then being retaliated against. So it's a scary environment. Mr. Nantwi, they said, became upset when the count was set to begin and left for the shower area of the dorm, where he could be heard crying. One prisoner, Rodney Richards, said Mr. Nantwi appeared to be having a disagreement with the National Guard members who were filling in for striking officers and had refused to go to his cubicle. Several prisoners said he had stopped taking his psychiatric medications. In response, the Guard members alerted a group of correction officers known as the Correctional Emergency Response Team. The prisoners said, noting that anywhere from 7 to 15 officers responded, some already wielding their batons. Jordan McLean, who said his cubicle was near Mr. Nantwi's, said he could hear the blows landing on his body. He was screaming, Mr. McLean, 26, said. I kept hearing, stop resisting. And at one point, you can just hear something being hit. Another prisoner, Aaron Perry, 34, said Mr. Nantwi had begged the prison guards to stop beating him. Quote, he said, I didn't do anything, Mr. Perry recalled. You're really hurting me. Stop. Some of the prisoners said the responding officers did not appear to be wearing body-worn cameras. Going back to Donna's point, um, Others said a few of the officers had them, but they were turned off. Four of the prisoners interviewed said they saw a corrections sergeant with either a handheld or body-worn camera, but that he was facing away from the attack. Members of the National Guard who do not wear body cameras stood by looking on. The prisoners said none intervened. The New York National Guard did not respond to a request for comment on Sunday. After the beating, the prisoners said Mr. Nantwi, who had been handcuffed and shackled, was dragged down the hall and down a flight of stairs, his face bloodied and swollen. Mr. Richards said Mr. Nantwi was not recognizable. One of the prisoners, Michael Humel Parker, 32, said Mr. Nantwi was making gurgling noises, a sign he said he could not breathe. Jared Crosby, 46, another inmate, said he could see from his cell window either office. He's okay. Sorry, Jared Crosby, 46, another inmate, said he could see from his cell window either officers or medical workers giving Mr. Nantwi CPR inside an ambulance. Inside the housing area, inmates were ordered to clean up the blood, they said. A bloodied mop and Mr. Nantwi's belongings were removed from the facility, the prisoners said. Within hours, investigators were interviewing witnesses. Mr. Richards, 43, said the beating he witnessed had left him uneasy. I fear for my life, he said. I don't know what's going to happen. That's an article from the New York Times, Jan Ransom. So I'm going to go over another article. This article is from the Freelance, and this one more or less talks more about Messiah and his background. So give me one quick second. I'm going to pull this up. Oh. So tell me what you think. There are 15 people on this chat. Feel free to chime in the chat. Let me know what your thoughts. I know Donna contributed. Thank you, Donna, for the comment. For everyone else that's there, let me know what you think. It's concerning that the witnesses are saying that they didn't see body worn cameras on the officers, and for those who did have it, they did not appear to be on. So I don't think they've learned their lesson from the Robert Brooks murder. Um, I know Kathy Hochul ordered basically put in the budget millions and millions of dollars to ensure that officers have these cameras, but they don't mean squat unless they're actually used and turned on. And if they're not turned on, there needs to be consequences for that. But we know that virtually correction officers get away with beatings and murders, and there are no consequences because of the collective bargaining agreement. So, something has to give. This article is from the Freelance, JB Nicholas. Survived being shot by cops, Harlem man killed by New York State prison guards. Messiah Nantwi was facing 2 murder charges when he was killed by guards at the Mid-State Correctional Facility. Messiah Nantwi was the New Yorker allegedly killed by correction officers at the Mid-State Correctional Facility on Saturday. Deeply troubling is what Governor Kathy Hochul called his death at a news conference on Monday. The actual cause of death is unknown, but it is my highest priority to get to the bottom of this, said Hochul. Nantwi, 22, was facing 2 murder charges and serving time for illegally possessing a handgun he allegedly used to shoot at 3 cops. He was pronounced dead at a Utica hospital, the state police confirmed. So one thing that we know is that those incarcerated individuals who have charges of assaulting or murdering a law enforcement officer get targeted behind bars. The Office of New York Attorney General and the New York State Police were notified of Nantwi's death. The state agency that manages New York prisons, the State Department of Corrections and Community Supervision, or DOCS, said in a news release. The commissioner placed 11 staff members involved in the incident on administrative leave pending the results of the investigations, which are ongoing, the news release added. The official cause of Nantwi's death will be determined by a county medical examiner. Mid-State, the prison where Nantwi was killed, is a medium security prison. Mid-State, the prison where, okay, sorry. DOC's Director of Public Information, Thomas Maley, did not respond to a request to explain what a prisoner facing 2 open murder charges that could lead to 2 consecutive life sentences was doing in a medium security facility when typically they would be kept in a maximum security prison. The killing comes on the 15th day of a wildcat strike by state prison guards that is continuing despite threats by Governor Kathy Hochul to fire and arrest strikers. At least 3 other prisoners have died during the strike. Yes, Pocahontas, it is sickening. It is sickening. Nantwi was shot several times by police in the Bronx in 2021. NYPD officers spotted Nantwi and a companion carrying spray paint cans and approached them. Then 18, Nantwi allegedly pulled a 22 caliber pistol and opened fire on Sergeant Darren Earl and officers Malik Underwood and Eric Reyes. The 3 officers returned 31 shots, striking Nantwi multiple times, police said. The cops were not injured. Nantwi survived. He was charged with 3 counts of attempted murder, criminal use and possession of a firearm, 3 counts of menacing a police officer, resisting arrest, and possession of graffiti instruments. The judge set Nantwi's bail at $300,000. He made it on April 21st, 2021, by posting 10% or $30,000 as New York law allows. Nantwi was still out on bail when he allegedly murdered 2 people in 2023. The killings made national headlines and put criminal justice reform in conservative crosshairs. Hello, Chad. Well, welcome. Thank you for coming on the stream. This just happened. Yes, this happened this past weekend. Okay. Then 21, Nantwi was charged with shooting and killing 2 people in Harlem over a period of 27 hours, including on the street in broad daylight and inside a smoke shop on 304 Lenox Avenue the next evening. Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg said in a 2023 news release. Video captured the murder in the smoke shop. Prosecutors called Nantwi an associate of the 129 crew and said his first killing of 19-year-old Jalen Duncan triggered a retaliatory murder. Trevor Gibbs, 25, was convicted of murder for killing Hector Delgado, 26, an OTN member, prosecutors said. Emily Tootle, Deputy Director of Communications, Senior Advisor to Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg, said the twin murder charges remain pending against Nantwi. Typically, when criminal defendants die pending trial, the charges against them are dismissed because they are, Tuttle explained, considered abated by death. Prison records show Nantwi pleaded guilty to criminal possession of a weapon in the second degree in the Bronx and was serving a 5-year sentence. A video posted to Facebook captures a teenage Nantwi standing on Houston Street in the village talking about his dreams. He said he wanted to make art, stuff like this, making art, making music, making clothes, traveling. I want to get my passport soon, he added. Travel the world, see London, Paris. I haven't been to Africa, so Africa. Messiah Ramekison, Associate Executive Director of the Youth Justice Network, said he met Nantwi when he was 16. Messiah was like a little brother to me, he said. Nantwi had a brilliant young mind, but the police shooting changed him. His mental health became a thing, Ramekison explained. What the police officers did to that young brother, it deteriorated his mind. Five, Mamalim Ak, a formerly incarcerated activist and architect of youth rehabilitation programs, told the Freelance. This kid's story is a real example of how the system fails our youth. They only have violence that they get from the violence inflicted on them back to the world. So that was the Freelance. I'm going to be linking and I'm going to be linking this article in the description as well with the article from the New York Times. So I'm going to be putting a link in the chat if anybody wants to come up and have a conversation about this. Um, the only thing I say is if you could be sure you have your camera on, if make sure you have no music in the background, and we will take it from there. So, all right, I'll pull out this article. So again, just to reiterate what the two articles are stating, we do have another incarcerated individual death that occurred this past weekend. The individual has been identified as Messiah Nantwi. My apologies if I'm not pronouncing the last name correctly. Uh, we do know that CERT was called based on the New York Times. They're saying that they interviewed 9 individuals who witnessed the beating death. We also know that 11 correctional staff have been suspended or placed on administrative leave. So that's what we have right now. Hopefully, we'll get more information. We'll get more details about this. I will be reporting on this as more information comes out. That is very important that we, keep putting this out there. Um, so, okay. So I want to thank everyone for being on the stream. Thank you for coming and hearing the news. If you can do me a favor and hit the like button to help with the algorithm, feel free to share the stream with other people. And if you feel that I've earned it, please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. If not, feel free to, tell other people about the channel. My goal is to give you honest and direct feedback and go deeper than what the mainstream media is telling you. Thank you. Take care. God bless.